Since a lot of you seem to have enjoyed my video on Alex Jones, this is not the type of thing that I usually talk about, but I really do believe that there are many things we can understand about the world by looking at these subjects. And so I thought that I would go into a little more of this question by looking at the recent appearance of flat earth theories and flat earth conspiracies, and looking at what these can mean in terms of how the world has been going in the past last moments, and understanding what is this structure that is going on. Why is flat earth reappearing as an idea?
This is Jonathan Pajot. Welcome to the Symbolic World.
So one of the most surprising things that have happened in the last few years has been the reappearance of a flat earth theory on the internet. There are many videos, many people talking about flat earth, and I think that it's a very important thing to look at. A lot of the insight I'm going to give you, who has from the view in this video, actually also beginning of flat earth appearing, comes from my brother, Mathieu Pajot, online, has been sending me links and has been sending me some of his ideas based on that. And so I have to give credit to him for helping me see a little bit about how important this flat earth thing is. Now, one of the very important things to understand as we look at how strange the world has become, I talked to you many times about this notion of what happens when the center breaks down, and when things start to move toward the periphery, start to break apart, start to fragment. One of the things that happens at that time is the incapacity to see things clearly. Something is true or false clearly. The incapacity, but also when something is ironic, to know when ironic or not, when it's a joke or not. And in the flat earth moment, we really see it as this laboratory of strangeness, where so many people who are involved in flat earth are doing it for the laughs, are doing it to poke fun at people, to troll people, so that when people take them seriously, they're just laughing. A lot of it is also a way to make fun of how complacent we are in our thinking, and how we tend to accept things the way they're given to us without questioning them. Flat earth in a scientific sense. There are, of course, those people online as well who believe in flat. But even in those people, it's very interesting to look at the arguments they give for why the round earth theory was developed. Now, I am not a flat earther in a scientific sense, but as those who know about me, I don't see the world in those terms. I don't see the scientific vision of the world as being primary. I actually see the phenomenological vision of the world as being primary. That is, that our experience in the world is the first experience. It is the frame out of which we then interpret the world. And so scientific understanding, which is it's very useful, it's very important, abstract, which is removed from the view. If you want to, make I think actually comes second. Make planes fly, or if you want to make an iPhone work, or this camera, whatever. Of course, that type of abstracted and alienated thinking, where you step outside yourself and try to analyze the world that way, is very important. But it is not the way we live our lives. We don't live our lives in this scientific world. We live our lives in an experiential world. We live our lives in a what I call a phenomenological world. And so when we start to look at what is happening with this flat earth ideas coming up, this is where we can see that what we're actually experiencing right now in the world, it's happening slowly. We can is a return, see glimpses of it. It's one of the reasons of symbolic thinking. Reasons why I'm making the videos that I'm making is because I have perceived that this is going on. And so it felt like it was now time to speak into these questions. What do I mean by the return of the phenomenological thinking? What we see in flat earth thinking is we're seeing the empirical, logical, doubt everything attitude of the scientific approach. We are seeing it eat itself. It has reached the end of its process, and it is now cannibalizing itself. Of studies which were one of the things we've noticed recognized as being in the last few years has been a lot of objective as being true. Our scientists are trying to redo the same experiments, the same studies, and they're not able to get the same results. And so old studies that people took for granted are now being dismissed. We can see it even in our own experiential life. We've seen a time in our life where rigorous scientists were telling us that we need to eat 4 food groups, and you have to eat all these different things every day, and this is a balanced diet. And now we're finding out, it seems, who knows, to what extent even this new thing is true, but now all of our body absorbs nutrients. This is being cast aside, and we're being told nutrients. And so, no, that's not the way our body works. That's not the way. Because a lot of these scientific experiments are not being replicated, there is like I said, the process of science is coming to its end. We're realizing that so many things that we believe, actually pretty much everything we believe about the world, is not based on our empirical analysis of things. It's based on trust. It's based on the trust that we have in the authorities that are giving us information. This, of course, for someone who believes in a traditional world, who believes in a symbolic world, this is not strange at all. We know that of that which has been handed to us, that the world is built on trust. We know that the world before, we know that it's built on the trust of the as a Christian, of the saints, of the councils, of the church, of the Bible. All these things we know because that's how a traditional world works. But the modern world presented itself as questioning all those sources, all those authorities, and we're going to do the experiments ourselves. We're going to do the studies ourselves, and then we will get a real perception of what the world is like. But in the end, what ends up happening is because we are not doing those experiments, at least not you and I. We are not going up into the sky and seeing the world as these extremely complicated ball. We have to trust those who did it. Explanations of how we can prove that. We have to trust those who are giving us that the world is actually round. And because of that, now the people a lot of the people who are becoming flat earthers are doing it. It is the system of empirical data and the system of empirical analysis eating itself. And what's happening is it's actually bringing back, in a very strange way. I've talked to you a lot about this double inversion, where let's say the scientific enlightenment worldview flipped the world upside down. Instead of looking towards authority, instead of looking towards essence, instead of language as the origin of, instead of looking towards reality, we looked at the ground. We looked, let's say, meaning and language, at phenomena. We tried to analyze phenomena itself, and that flip is major, and it has created some great things. A lot of the tools we use, but it has also created a problem, and we see it in the meaning crisis that we're experiencing today. Is part of that is what led to this situation that we're in. And now that it's upside down, when we reach the end of that, we realize that we are still based on trust. And our world is still based on trust. It's just we decided to trust other people, not the same people. It's happening in a myth that the ancient world, logical way. This whole flat earth thing started to trust. And so is really a mythical structure which is showing itself in the world. And what's happening is a return to the basic experience of the world that you can have. And that a basic experience of the world that you can have is true. It's true in the sense that it is true that this is our experience of the world. Nobody that you know has ever experienced the planetary systems that is described in science. No one you know has ever experienced the Earth as a globe. We do not experience that. And so at the end of this prayer, meaning is process. We are flipping back primary, where the human, and returning to a world where human consciousness is first, in then looking at the world through that filter of human consciousness. Now, a lot of the flat earth type people don't necessarily frame it that way. To be honest, I don't think they totally know what's happening in a broad scale. They're just doubting everything and then coming back to the very, very ancient cosmic image, of a dome and a flat surface, and it's hilarious. But it's also it's hilarious because we are in this moment where the world is wobbly. Don't know what is true, what is ironic, and nothing is certain. What's a joke, what's serious, certain anymore. And people, if you look at even our political leaders, Donald Trump is basically memeing and trolling people. The very president of the United States is saying things in a manner which is meant to create to create this kind of destabilization. But then what it's leading to ultimately, I believe, is a return of the symbolic worldview. And it's not just, of course, flat Earth, which is going to do that, but flat Earth, and also this whole science of consciousness, this whole return of understanding that hierarchies of meaning are inevitable, a crazy moment. All of this is kind of caught where symbolism, coalescing into this, is returning. And the image of the dome and the earth, at the below, is really secretly, you could say, a return to this world of meaning. Now, if you look at some of the flat earthers, it's very interesting to see because obviously they have to imagine a vast conspiracy which exists, from the time of Copernicus, basically, up to today. And you kind of have, and you have to wonder, like, why would they do this? Why would they lie systematically until today? Why would they fake? And the solution that many of them, all these things, the all now end up coming to, NASA and all this, why would they fake it? Is that they did it in order to subvert the world, in order to remove God, remove all those things that make the idea that the earth is the center, that man is the center, and they're faking all this conspiracy in order to reduce the idea of man in relationship to God, and this notion of the human person as the center of the cosmos, and Earth as the center of the cosmos. And so the truth is that they're right. They're right that that's the purpose, but you don't necessarily see that. The have to posit a change which happened, scientific flat Earth, in order to see which subverted this. The change which happened, which subverted and changed all this, was the change from understanding the world as manifesting itself through the human person. Today we could say something like manifesting itself through human consciousness, that without consciousness the world has no form, has no hierarchy, has no structure. And so human consciousness becomes the vehicle by which the world ends up laying itself out in its meaning, in its hierarchy. And so the inversion, the subversion, by positing a world which is real, but more real, outside of, we say that it's more true, for example, human perception, which is more real, that the earth is turning around the sun. It's more true than the sun turning around the earth. But our perception of the sun is that it turns around the earth. That is, if we view the universe through the guise of human consciousness, that is the first perception, you could say. The first perception is that perception of the sun going around the earth. It's not a mechanical perception. It's a perception which puts meaning first. That's the difference. Now, once you flip it for a kind of mechanical descriptive meaning, what you're actually doing is you're putting meaning that is the emphasis of meaning, the most important. Then what you're putting the center of the world outside of the human being, outside of human consciousness and consciousness itself as the vehicle for meaning. Of course, in the traditional manner, the ultimate summit of knowledge is not the human person, it's God, but God working through the human person who is the image of God in creation. So that is the actual subversion which happened. So if you're interested in that, I have given several talks. There's a talk on my channel called A Full Affront on the Copernican Revolution, in which I discuss how this change of anthropocentric in the sense from a geocentric of meaning worldview, in the sense of meaning of change to this decentered universe of mechanical causes, what that means for us and how we're reaching the end of that today. And now we're seeing this flip as we understand the inevitable hierarchies of meaning which manifest themselves in the world. I've also written an article which is called "Most of the Time the Earth is Flat," and you can already see in the title that I am trying to explain how we do not have to posit other mechanical forces, other anthropocentric vision, mechanical descriptions to of the world, to regain the cosmic vision of the world in which the human person, human consciousness, in which love, in which hierarchies of meaning are the center. And if we look at, once we understand that that's the key to understanding the world is to understand how our first experience of the world is through consciousness and through that filter, then all of a sudden so many things open themselves up. All the stories, all the ancient stories, all the ancient rituals, the shape of a church, the way that we have certain social rituals of turning around centers, of all of this, that the center of things suddenly becomes clear once that the hierarchy of the understand that the meaning things is not the mechanical description of them. It is the manner in which we experience meaning through consciousness. So I hope that this is a little helpful in terms of understanding why something like flat earth theory seems to be participating, maybe even despite itself, in a return of a symbolic worldview, in watching the analytical, empirical world eat itself by coming back, despite itself, to the very, very ancient vision of heaven as being circular, with the world as being, which has a very profound meaning. I also wrote horizontal, and wrote an article called Heaven is Round, Earth is Square, which you can find. I'll put all those links in the description, in which you can read about how the ancient cosmologies describe the world and why it's important that they do that and what it means for us in understanding how the world lays itself out. So I appreciate everybody watching this. I appreciate all the sharing the videos, and as usual, subscribe to my channel if you find this interesting. There's a lot of stuff about symbolism on my channel. I want to say hello to all the new subscribers that have come through the Alex Jones video, and so thanks again, guys. If you want to support the channel, you'll also find a link to that below, and I'll see you soon.